We all have questions about healing, about why we feel the way we feel, about how to truly find peace in a world that never slows down. I'm Jo, and I'll be the voice of those questions. Your voice, asking what so many of us wonder but don't always know how to put into words. And guiding us through it all is Caroline Byrd, intuitive therapist, medium, holistic counsellor, teacher and guide, whose work bridges the wisdom of the body and emotional intelligence with the depth of the human experience. This is The Emotional Field, a series of honest, embodied dialogues about what it really means to come home to yourself. Welcome to our ongoing conversations that heal. Given that this is our very first episode, it feels right to start with some introductions, and who better to begin with than Caroline herself. Now, there are some people who seem to live between two worlds, the seen and the unseen, and Caroline is one of them. She's an intuitive therapist, holistic counsellor, meditation specialist, breathwork facilitator, Reiki master, as well as a medium and channel for Jonah, the collective consciousness. It's through Jonah that she translates subtle frequencies of truth into messages that feel both timeless and deeply personal. But she's so much more than her work. She's a mother, a sister, a wife. She's a mentor and a friend. I often think of her as an elder, a sage, a motherly figure who's certainly taken me under her wing. But beyond all of that, she's deeply human. She's funny. Yes, she swears when it's warranted. She's generous with her time and her heart. And while it may seem like she's someone who's got it all together, she's simply a walking embodiment of her collective experiences in this particular lifetime. For more than 3 decades, she's guided people through healing, grief, transformation, and awakening. She's helped people to return to themselves through the language of energy, the rhythm of the breath, and the quiet intelligence that lives in every cell of the human body. Her practice weaves together a breath of life meditation, the healing wisdom of the 7 chakras, and the spiral of life. These are all her own frameworks for remembering who we are beneath the stories. Now, I've known Caroline for nearly a decade, and there's still so much that I don't know about her. In preparing for this episode, I was reminded that she experienced DV for 10 years, something I'd somehow forgotten. It was also a part of my mother's experience too, and maybe that's why and how we find each other. The people, the stories, the experiences, they're often a mirror to our very own healing. So much of what you'll hear today about Caroline is just the tip of the iceberg, and I feel deeply honoured to be the one asking these questions, helping to uncover the depth behind the wisdom she shares so freely. So today we begin with her story, her medicine, and her way of seeing the world. Caroline, I'm certain you won't mind me sharing this. You turned 64 this year. You've lived a rich and interesting life, full of grief and love and loss and everything in between. What's the common thread that's really carried you through all of these seasons?
The common theme through my life was fear. The common theme through my life was anxiety. Not now, but before. Endings, change, death, they're the common themes. Even though when I was a child, I was always in the same house, we never moved. I went to the same primary school, same high school, only one of each. But the truth is, in my everyday life, I had to change who I was. I had to change to fit in. And if I didn't, I would isolate myself. So in isolation, I learned to love myself. In isolation, I learned to be okay. So my common themes in the things that happen define me as a woman who needs to change often. And those who work with me understand that. Those who know me understand that. Change is the catalyst for who I am.
There's a saying that our deepest pain becomes the soil for our greatest transformation. Looking back, what were some of the pivotal moments or rock bottom experiences that really shaped your path and set you on this journey of healing?
The pivotal moments, Joe, I would have to say feeling alone, but also abuse. Now, my abuse didn't come always from physical. It came through emotional, and even sometimes how I would abuse myself, believing that I was unworthy because of masculine. So I sometimes, not all the time, placed myself in my younger years in positions where I would give to the masculine because I felt that that's what was needed for them to love me, to want me, to stay with me. But subtly that turned into an abuse. Then the next pivotal moment for me was the abuser, as physical abuse, DV for 10 years. He died and I was 29. That was my pivotal moment that changed my whole life, not for the bad, but for the good. His death was the change that my emotional field needed because I had to step up. I had a 9-year-old son. I had to be the mum, the dad. I had to do it all. Yes, I was strong and yes, I was controlling. But when we talk about pivotal moments, I can see a pattern throughout my whole life where these endings, changes, death even, things that have left me suffering inside that then created the anxiety inside me.
Were there any other pivotal moments?
There was many. At 16, telling my father that I was going to leave home. Him always telling me that I was too young, too immature. I didn't know what I was talking about. Having a big argument where it became physical, where he would push me around the kitchen. I was determined at 16, I'm out of here. And I did. Didn't know what I was doing back then, but I did it. I did go back once. So my pivotal moments were always with masculine. So even in primary school, I had a moment in grade 4 where this boy would not leave me alone. He was smitten by me. He bought me flowers in grade 4. I didn't understand it. I started to become fearful. I didn't like masculine paying attention to me because something could happen. Don't get too close to me. What ifs? I didn't understand why I felt this about the masculine. But if I go back to something my mother said to me when I was born, the first 6 months or the first year, if a man came near me, if she was holding me and the masculine came near, I would scream. And no masculine was allowed to touch me or hold me, including my own father. So yes, that's something we can talk about, past life coming into present life at such a young age. So from there, I had a lot of experience with abuse with masculine. And I do remember one in grade 3. It just came into my mind. In grade 3, there was this boy. I even remember him. I know his name. He lived in the street next to us, just in the playground. For some random reason, he kicked me right in my vagina. Like it dropped me to my knees. So there was a lot of abuse around that area. Then at 28, before my first husband died, he did exactly the same to me. So there was a lot of unworthiness, a lot of the feminine closing down, sexual issues, to the point where I was 23, going on to 24, where I had an ectopic pregnancy and I lost that child. I hemorrhaged, died, crossed over and came back. Now, that moment in my life changed a lot of things within me as well. I never felt worthy for the masculine. That emotional trauma stayed with me for many years until I began my deeper healing journey. So it was 23, 24 when that happened, and then 29 when my husband died. So everything really came at me in the first 29 years of my life. I could go on forever. As I start talking, I can see, oh yeah, and that boy and this man and that man, all the things that I did as the feminine. What that did create in me, though, was a lot of pain in my lower abdomen, where in the end, I had to have major operations. Back then, they didn't call it endometriosis, but I gather that because it was on the outside, not inside my uterus. Or when they opened me up, my ovaries were stuck to my womb, my bowel was stuck to my womb, and they had to microsurgery it all apart. Now that was, 22 to 23 when I had that operation. From there, they told me I would never fall pregnant. By the time I'm 30, I'd have to have a hysterectomy. I'm 64 now. I've never had a hysterectomy because of the healing that I have experienced.
I feel like anxiety is such an overused term these days. Could you give us an understanding of what you believe anxiety really is, both from your own lived experience and from what you see in your practice with your clients?
Anxiety always begins with fear. That is, to me, the point of anxiety entering. Now, fear could be many, many situations. Every human being is different. All I can do is share my own and some of my clients. So for me, I thought it was when my husband died was my first experience. But as I started healing, I realized that I was having bouts of it throughout my life. But I never called it anxiety. I just thought I was a bit overwhelmed, a bit anxious, a bit, fluttery in my body. So what I realize now for myself and working with clients, anxiety is grief. Anxiety starts with a grief, whether it's an ending of someone's life, an animal, grandparent, it doesn't matter. There's an ending somewhere. Could be that you've had to leave the home that you loved, not knowing where you're going to go to. Anxiety always has the base of the unknown. I don't know what it's going to be like. We start feeling anxious. So it can be subtle. People go, oh, you've got anxiety, and the individual will balk at that and say, no, I don't. I haven't got anxiety. I'm okay, because they think it's a problem and someone else has it, not me. I believe that every human being has had anxiety somewhere, sometime in their life. It just depends on the extent of what touched them in grief that actually created it. We say grief because anxiety sits in the lungs. When someone can't breathe properly, they feel isolated, alone, confined. All these play at the body system. As I'm talking now, I just had one moment pop in. And when I say pop in, it's always my guides or Jonah that showed me a moment. So at the age of 15, there was 4 or 5 of us. We were visiting one of our mates in hospital. We had to go to the city. On the way back, we were going down the elevator, and one of the boys decided to hit the stop button, and the elevator just stopped. We're inside. We didn't know what floor we were on. We couldn't get out. The doors would not open. So I started to feel suffocated. I started to get claustrophobia. I started to panic. I couldn't stand being in small, closed places. It got to the point where even the technicians couldn't even start the elevator. So they had to pry the doors open. We were halfway between floors. So you could see there was a floor up there and a floor down there. We had to sit down and crawl through. The whole time my thought was, what if it starts and kills me? I don't know, and I could die. This is the base of anxiety. So I can only talk to you about my experience there, but a lot of times it is fear of the unknown. It is unhealed trauma, something that we've locked in. I said grief sits in the lungs. Why? Because it's our life force energy. It's our breathing system. If we're afraid we could die, and consciously, a lot of people who have anxiety don't know that's the end result of what they're feeling. They just go to, oh, I can't be in this room, or no, I have to move out of here. I have to take flight. Anxiety is, in my experience, is more flight than fight or freeze. Okay, the flight is, I need to leave, I need to get out, I can't be here. So this starts to happen. It's like this charge in my body is like, get out, you're unsafe, go, don't stay. That to me is parts of anxiety.
Why do you think anxiety is so prevalent in the world right now? What's fueling it? Or is this question in and of itself a misrepresentation?
Anxiety, I feel it begins with change. Something is changing, and in change, the mind becomes busy. So there's 2 things why anxiety is prevalent these days. There has been so much change in the way we live, the way we work, the way our children are taught, There is so much change. We're in an in-between limbo stage of humanity's evolution. So the change becomes the busy mind. Everything that we're doing has to do with screens, with phones. The connection, the community, that kept us grounded. Anxiety means I'm not in my base. I don't know who I am. I'm trying to create something of who I am, which is everything we see on socials, including myself, the filters, all these things. We're trying to be something we're not. And in that, the mind has created a belief. And that belief is, you're not good enough. You can't do that. Why are you even trying? No, don't. No, that's not going to work. There's all these things. So the mind has got really busy. The mind is telling us that we can't. The mind is telling us that we don't want to be something that we're not. But then we see it on socials and we're like, yeah, but I have to, because this is what everyone is doing. So we've become monkey see, monkey do. So then we go, but who am I? That's why it's hard to answer that question, because we're doing so many things. Now, the one thing that comes from all of this is, I am not enough. I don't have enough. When you say and believe that you are not enough, then your mind hears that. It's a filing system locked away inside your subconscious. And what happens is every time you go to do something, the thought says, you can't do that. Remember what happened last time. You start to then react to the same energy of a past experience in the present moment. Anxiety is not a perception. Perception is what we're seeing outside of us. Perception is where your image through your body's eyes, based on your experiences, sees the world differently. So this is why we've always said when there's an accident and the police are interviewing people, literally 10 people get interviewed and each one says a different experience. That's perception. But when something is actually happening with inside you, it's not perception. It is an unhealed moment of trauma showing you it's time. It's like it says, oh, here I am again. What are you going to do with me today? That is the key.
There's so much stigma around anxiety, like it's something to be ashamed of, as if it's a weakness. But in truth, it's just a signal from the body. I don't use the word anxiety at all, but I know it's just language. I more closely identify with frustration, tension, restlessness. So I'm just curious, what does anxiety feel like? How does it show up in the mind? How does it show up in the body?
How does it look in the body and in the mind? I'm going to go to the mind first, because a thought embraced by the feeling is what creates the reality. There's always the thoughts first. How does it look in the mind? Overwhelm, hundreds of thoughts, badgering, beating you up, pointing things out. Watch out here, what's going on there? No, you can't do that. Why are you doing that? Did you know that? Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you're frying inside. You cannot survive. Like you're going to explode. There's nothing you can do to shut it off. That is the extreme of anxiety. Now, what happens when the thoughts are doing this? Your feelings, your emotions are getting touched by each of those thoughts. And that's where we talk about the packages of emotions locked into the human emotional field. Those are sparking off. A thought says, remember what happened last time? That's right. Oh my God, I was so scared. I had to run from that situation. If I didn't run, I could have died. So you've got the past, the present, future. When the mind brings it into your present, you're feeling exactly what you did way back. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? I know some people may counteract with their own teachings or their own trainings. I truly believe that we all have our own way of explaining. Mine is, I have realized with my clients and myself, thoughts come first, feelings second, because there are so many thoughts daily, but when one touches an unhealed moment, we feel it in the body because it triggers and ignites it to be experienced again. Why? Not to re-traumatize ourselves. This is what people don't understand. It's actually saying, here I am. Can you please let me go? Can you please heal me so I can leave you? First thing with anxiety, I'm just going to describe my own sweaty palms, moving my hands like this. I take in a big breath, like I feel like I haven't got enough air in my lungs. My shoulders start to get tight, and then self-talk. Come on, you got this. You can do it. Like really trying to be positive. But once the body's experience is started to ignite, it doesn't matter what you say to yourself, be enough to calm it. Everything has to slow down. That's the only way you're going to calm it. Slow down.
This podcast is one of the many ways that we're sharing your voice with a wider audience. And when I asked you, where should we start? You said begin with anxiety. After all of these years of knowing you, I would have thought you'd begin with the trauma, the inner child, or the relational dynamics that cause the trigger, the memory, the beliefs of what's unhealed. So why do we begin with anxiety?
Trauma is trauma. It's harsh, it hurt, it's all those things. Inner child takes you back to the trauma of that moment that's creating the anxiety. So let's start with what is presenting itself today. If I go straight back to a trauma in the past, you're going to have more anxiety. You're going to feel overwhelmed because I forgot that was there. I didn't understand that that's what created it. I thought I had healed that moment, and I thought I had suppressed that moment, and I've just ignored that moment. But if it's brought out before anxiety settles, you're re-traumatized. So the reason that we start with anxiety is because that's what presents itself. The body is saying there's something locked in. So we work with the anxiety to calm the mind, which then brings the emotional field down. Once your emotional field is softened, I call the emotional field like a piece of rope. When you're anxious, it's frayed. There's all little particles going off it. But once we soothe it through technique, meditation, all these things, I feel grounded, I feel whole again. Then we can work on the underlying trauma.
And finally, for someone who's feeling broken by anxiety, how would you reframe it for them?
Reframing anxiety. I'm just going to say base chakra. If you don't understand the chakras, that's all right. But what I will say is groundedness. The base of our being, the base of our body. When you are in flight mode, which is anxiety, you are stepping out of a secure place. There are 3 S's that work to the grounded feeling. Do I feel safe? Do I feel secure? And do I feel supported? If one or all of those are out of whack and you're not receiving it from the world or even knowing how to give it to yourself, then anxiety appears because I don't feel safe here. I have to leave. No one's here to support me. I'm all alone. And security, what if someone harms me? So these are the 3 natural states that we get in when we don't feel grounded. The grounded energy is also, who am I? Where do I belong? We talk about ancestors, country of origin. All of that comes into play. When we have to move countries, I've known experiences with friends of mine, and they had to live 2 years in a foreign country. They didn't ground themselves. So what happened was a defense mechanism had to come into play. Now that defense mechanism can look like either you hide or isolate or want to be alone, or you become bigger and better in an aggressive way. So there are 2 ways. There may be other subtleties in between, but these are the 2 main ones. So our fears and our thoughts, they compound. Every experience that we've ever had from the past that matches anxiety or matches rejection, betrayal, overwhelm, anger, all of the times that we have an unhealed moment back here, we're in the present moment, something happens, but all of those unhealed moments come into this present moment and go into the world. That's the compounding residue from unhealed trauma. So we all do it until we realize what we're doing. And then, and only then, can you relate to it? You become aware of it. And when you become aware of it, you can internally thank it, because it's your healing journey, no one else's.
When we talk about the emotional field, we're referring to the landscape of our inner world, the energetic, emotional, and psychological layers that shape how we move through life. Some call it the emotional body, the energetic field. It's where our patterns live, often beneath our conscious awareness in the subconscious or unconscious mind. For those who may not be familiar with any of these terms, can you share what the emotional field actually is? What do you mean when you talk about working in or reading someone within the emotional field?
Every human body has an energy system, and we have an emotional meridian. Now, a meridian is what an acupuncturist would use to place the needles in, tweak them, and an energy goes across the meridian. These are unseen things, things that we can't comprehend by the intellect. So we have an emotional field. Every single experience, every single emotion is locked into us as packages. The emotional field is like the iceberg. What comes above the water is just the tip of what is sitting beneath. That's why I always say, what presents itself is what you start with. You imagine if you're in the ocean and you see an iceberg, you don't know how big it is underneath. But imagine if you tried to dive in to find the bottom of that, you won't. It's either too cold, it's too deep, or too big. The emotional meridian is where we begin. That locks in a package. Now, these packages are here. They're inside us and they lay dormant. So imagine this is one of your packages. I call this an atomic bomb, just waiting to be detonated. Here it is. So the atomic bomb, we understand, for an atomic bomb to go off, its core has to be heated. Now, the core is all these unhealed moments in your life. Someone in the world or something you walk into or you experience now touches. The emotion might be anxiety that you felt. So you've got all these unhealed moments of anxiety. You walk into a situation, you start to feel anxiety in this moment. So this is your package called all the times I've had anxiety. So walking into this place, it goes, yeah. And you're like, oh, and it goes, mm. The deeper you go into it, the more you can't get away from it. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger, which is the heating of the core issue, anxiety. Then when the atomic bomb goes off, which could look like someone with anxiety, changing it to be strong. I'm going to protect myself, right? So I'm going to yell and I'm going to scream and I'm going to run away from this situation. But what we have to understand is, what is the worst situation of an atomic bomb going off? Yes, the explosion is devastating, but the fallout lingers for a long time. So what we do with anxiety is to find these packages and heal them without re-traumatizing. That's what the emotional meridian is about. We think that we're reacting in the present moment to what that person said, but we're not. We're reacting from all our other moments and giving that to that issue, that person, that situation. It's not just that one moment. And this is why people are like, well, what's your problem? Like, I only said this, you went off. What's going on? And that makes you angrier because you still have to protect yourself. So the emotional field, every single human being has this, stored emotions, and remember, beliefs that are stored in your unconscious in like a filing cabinet match the feeling. So the thought says, oh, I don't want to be here. It then opens up the cabinet that holds all your beliefs about anxiety and situations. Then it gives you the feeling. So they're both coming out. So your beliefs have to be cleared. Your thoughts about yourself, the world, and others has to be cleared, as well as the feeling that was attached. You can't just work on the feelings without the thoughts, and you can't just work on the thoughts without the feelings. It is a whole package. That is the dynamic of it. So predominantly when I say I'm always working in people's emotions, because I understand that level. That's why it's so important. In a session, if someone comes with anxiety, I find what we call the story, which is the experience. We're not negating it, but I have to call them stories because there are so many of them. Now, that particular story of anxiety, okay, I have that. Now, how did that make you feel? Not just anxious, but there'll be under the iceberg lots of other emotions. We work through a package of that. Then we go to the belief and we question it to clear it out of the filing cabinet that keeps triggering off the thought that then triggers the package of emotions.
I'm really curious, what are the common sub-packages under anxiety that you see?
Yeah. Fear, overwhelm, fear of the unknown, fear of death. It really depends. There could be many. It could be I feel vulnerable. It could be I feel alone. It could be I'm angry. So if I was to have the feelings inventory here, I would say that at any time and any moment, any one of them, depending on the situation that the individual is in. So in my experience, vulnerability was a big one because it was always about the masculine hurting me. So I felt vulnerable. That made me feel alone. That made me feel scared. But in that scared, I got angry and had to stand up for myself when I was younger. So I became never a victim. I became someone who would push and push and push to be heard. Even if I was getting punched or slapped, I still had to have a say. So all sorts of things can happen based on your intimate or not intimate experience. One thing I'm going to add there's a saying that I have now because of all of this in my life and my past and who I am now. I can honestly say and believe my strength now lies in my vulnerability. I can be vulnerable and feel powerful all at the same moment.
Is there one core emotion that we come in to heal?
Yes. I'm going to give you an analogy that came to me many years ago, and it was called the soul's strand. As a soul embodies, why do we come into the body? It's coming in to heal one issue, one core. So how do you find that? We do what's called a life graph. We find out from the age up to the age of 5. Usually there'll be a predominant emotion that gets touched. And then you'll find it gets touched many times. So as an example, let me go to rejection. A lot of people feel rejected at many times in their life. So if their soul strand was rejection, then it's set up in the first 7 years of our childhood that someone or some experience touches rejection. You feel it. That locks it in. Then from there, you continually experience it. Different times, different people, different situations, but the feeling is always the same. That's how you know what your soul strand is. So what we call this is the spiral of life. So we're born, here it comes, rejection. You feel it. You might be 4 or 5. Oh, here it comes again. You might start primary school and it's like, oh, my friends rejected me, but you don't know it's called rejection. You just feel left out. You're not in the inner circle, that sort of story. And then here it comes again in teenage years, but it really comes through parents. It starts to come through friends, boys especially. So we experience it here. Then we get older. And as we're growing, we're constantly hitting stories, different times, different people, different situations, but the same feeling. Now, eventually, when you come up to 30s, 40s, still there. But you're like, I recognize that. This is mine. You start to heal. You start to become aware. Awareness is the first port of healing. Remember that. Now, when you become aware of what your soul strand is, it will enter, because I'm going to tell you, many people say to me, so when does it stop? It doesn't, because it's your soul strand. But what happens is you make choices based upon knowing what it is. So eventually, You'll be in a situation, or you'll meet a partner or a friend or a colleague, something will happen, and you're going to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to get involved with them. I can feel that energy. I know what that is now. I'm not going to place myself in that situation, so I will be rejected again. I know who I am. I don't have to experience it anymore. Then you get older, you have children, and children will do it. Partners will do it. Remember the terminology I always say, parents and partners have the word part in it. What part of me is in them that's coming back to me? So that's how it works. The spiral of life, it does not leave, but you make choices. So here's an example. You're walking along in your life and you're like, oh, and then you're like, yeah, no, you'll feel that, whoops, nope, I'm not going to do that. You make a choice to step in or out. At first, when you understand your soul strand, when you're doing healing on it, you might forget. That's normal. And you'll take a big leap in. And I call that the quagmire, like the quicksand. You're going to go, oh, I'm stuck again. Oh no, what did I do? Don't beat yourself up. You'll take that step out. It might take you a little while to get out because you jumped fully in. So it might take a little bit longer to step out of it. And then next time another situation comes, you might put one foot in and go, oh, I recognize that feeling. No, I'm not going to go there. So you step out easier. Now, eventually, you don't even step into it. Eventually, the stories, the people, the experiences do not even enter your reality because you have healed the strand that your soul came to heal for evolution, for humanity. One emotion, but yes, many, many sub-emotions come off it.
What is your soul strand?
My soul strand is loneliness. Separation and loneliness, which people always leave. I'm always in big spaces by myself. I don't need people now, but in my younger years I did. I was always, where can I fit in? I needed to fit in. But that was me, and then I felt uncomfortable and overwhelmed and scared. Oh, this isn't safe, so here comes my anxiety. And so I'd come home. As a little girl, I remember sitting on my front porch playing dolls by myself. I would go with all the critters, snakes and lizards and dogs in the neighborhood. They would all come to me because they were my friends. They couldn't harm me. So I was all alone. So yes, mine was loneliness and separation, which is, third marriage at 64. It's like I'm always leaving. That flight mechanism made me separate from others. I used to blame them, but it was my trigger that I felt safer if I took off, if I wasn't here. As a teenager, it's like, I'm out of here energy. Yeah, leaving home at 16, having to do it all by myself, all those energies. So when I started meditating, I remember many years ago in meditation, I started to envision walking above me was a big grey timber wolf. He was beautiful. And I was like, what is this? I was scared. I was like, what's this wolf doing in my vision? And the voice, as I called it, the voice back then, instead of Jonah, the voice said to me, you are lone wolf. This is your journey. Relief. It's okay to be alone. That's when I started to realize I love people. I love my family, my friends, my colleagues, my husband. I love everyone. But I have become a very detached human being to do the work I needed to do with clients. How did that work? By having all those experiences that were negative and trauma. For me to learn to step out of the situation, look at it differently, own parts of it that touched me, and be okay with it.
Would you say that most people aren't even aware of their nervous system baseline? They don't realize their body might be stuck in a chronic stress state?
I think every human being has something like that going on. It doesn't matter how much healing you've done. You will still have something there. And to me, this is the soul strand. Soul strand is the baseline. And people, they believe it's normal. This is who I am. When people react, they go into story and blame, they judge, because it takes the pressure off themselves, which is more pressure on themselves that creates the anxiety in the first place. So their baseline, do they know that the body's reacting? I believe they do, but they don't know what to do with it. So they suppress. They go, no, I'm too busy today. I can't handle that. So an emotion from the past, something that is unhealed, when you walk into a room or someone says a name, it could be someone who's died in your life, and they mention something that's happened to them, your story goes, and you're like, stop it, I can't do that today. So, no, I can't. We have to move on. So you suppress. So this is happening constantly with a lot of people, not everyone. Look, what we talk about here with anxiety is not every human being at this level. But those of you who it is at your level, you will totally understand what I'm saying. Others who listen to this may turn around and go, oh, what's she talking about? I've got no idea. Because your base wasn't, or your strand might not have been anything that sat with anxiety. It will be something else. There's so many different strands, remember? So yes, I do believe that everyone is aware of them, but doesn't know what to do with it. They suppress it. They self-talk, I'm okay, this isn't happening. They ignore it. Now, ignoring an emotion means that it will get stronger until one day it comes out in a tangent, in an explosive manner. In some cases, it can come out with self-harm because it is so overwhelming for them that they believe that something is wrong with them.
You know, we've talked a lot about anxiety and the emotional field, but inevitably people want to know, how do I actually shift back into a parasympathetic state? I want to put this into context because not a lot of us have time or space to do a full tapping sequence or go to a full breathwork practice or set aside 30 minutes when you're in the thick of it, when you're in public or at work or mid-meltdown. You can't always duck to the bathroom to meditate. So in those moments of chaos, when you don't have the ability to reach for a tool or technique, how can someone recalibrate themselves?
Do you know a tapping sequence takes 2 minutes? That's what people don't realize. The mind is too active, the mind is too busy, which keeps us busy. That's the difficulty of life right now. The first thing I always say, you have to stop. If you're in front of someone, in a situation, maybe at work, in a meeting, something's touched you, it may not be suitable for you to, I'm going to the bathroom moment. So what I would suggest is do not keep your eyes moving around the room, because that keeps your thoughts processing over and over and over again. When your eyes are moving, you are in your conscious mind. You are literally here looking, feeling, oh, what about that? What about this? What's going on? Lots and lots of thoughts are coming. So if you're in a meeting or even with a partner and they're going off at you, something's happening and you're starting to feel that energy, but you can't leave the situation, lock your eyes. Whatever it is, don't look at them, look at their shoulder. So once your body starts to experience anxiety, lock your eyes on one thing. The body starts to settle because your thoughts are not busy. When you're like, thinking, I've got to get out of this situation, where can I go? What can I do? That brings more anxiety. If you lock, and you'll find some way of doing that, even if you just look back at them once, look back, diverting your eyes to one thing. That way, your conscious mind is not involved. Your rational mind comes in and says, you're safe. Use those three and say, I'm safe. Inside yourself, I'm saying this. I am safe. I'm secure. I'm supported. I'll give you an example. When I used to have bad anxiety after my first husband died, I would be terrible driving a car or standing in a queue at the shops. It was the stopping. See, this is how I know you have to stop to heal it, because it was the stopping that would bring it up. So if I had to stand still, I'd start to panic. Oh my God, I've got to get out of here. I felt unsafe. In a car, I'd be driving fine. The minute I had to come up to traffic lights, I'd be like, oh, my hands would start to sweat. I'd get anxious. Now, what I would do is I would stare at the light and I would say to myself, because it had the red stop, I am safe. I am secure. I am happy and healthy. That was my four. I'm safe. I am secure. I'm happy and healthy. And I just keep repeating it until it went green. And then I'm like, okay. So it would calm me. So you find whatever suits you, but that was my go-to. Locking and speaking positive affirmations to myself that made me believe that I was safe, I was secure, because nothing would happen. Because my mind isn't racing in all the thoughts that could happen. That's the key. Stop. If you're already sitting, you're already standing, but stop.
For the most part, I think people are aware when they're out of balance. We can feel it. The energy is very palpable. But the ability to actually bring ourselves back to regulate, that's something we have to build. It's like a muscle, a daily practice. And the two practices you've become most known for, the ones that you always refer to as the gateways into healing and deeper connection, are meditation and breathwork. Can you take us back to how you first found meditation, or rather, how it found you?
So in my world now, I understand with clients and myself that grief, hence someone dying in my life, it affects the lungs. And usually, if you haven't dealt with a big ending or a death, usually within 18 months to 2 years prior to that moment, you may experience either asthma, panic attacks, or heart issues. Now, we say this because it's a life force energy, which then starts to shut down through grief. I remember doing a training 33, 34 years ago in Adelaide for my Reiki 2. And I remember the Reiki master explaining this 18 months to 2 years. And a woman in the group asked the question, well, tell me, how can that be true when my son was 9 months old when he first had asthma? The Reiki master looked at her and said, and what were your thoughts when you first fell pregnant? And she went, oh, I want to terminate. There it is. 18 months later, that child had the grief coming through the body. Anyway, I'll go back to my story. So the anxiety, the panic attacks, not being able to feel comfortable driving, standing in queues, anything that I was having to stop started to raise because I was in flight mode so much out of fear that if I had to stop, something could happen to me. Now, I would even ask my son to come to the shops with me after school and he'd get really annoyed, but I didn't feel he needed to know what was going on. I thought, this is terrible. I can't live like this, because literally I was not living. I was shortening everything. Everything was coming in on me and I couldn't live fully. So I went to the doctor, and of course the doctor gives me Xanax. Don't you love it? That's what they do. But I have to say, it was the best thing at that time in my life, because it calmed me in such a way that I was like, oh, thank you. I could function. I started to feel a bit normal again, until one day, with the partner I was with after my first husband died, my son, him, and myself were going to the beach. And of course, I had the beach bag with me. And it wasn't until I looked down at the bag when the mind said, you don't have your tablets with you. And I was like, oh my God. At this stage, I wasn't actually taking them because I was okay. I felt okay. They became a crutch, my safety mechanism. If they're there, just in case, just in case. And I was like, what can I do? Oh my God, I'm going to the beach. So my sister lived around the corner from where we were driving at that moment. Here's how life works, hey? And I said to my partner, oh, I've started my period. I need to go there. Because my sister was on the same medication. Here's a family system thing. Anyway, my sister got the medication, got back in the car, and I was fine. Never had to take it. Just knowing it was there made me feel safe. This happened a few times where I was like, oh, have I got them? And I could feel that anxiety rising in those thoughts. And I went, oh, I just don't want to be like this anymore. I remember thinking, I want to be normal. I didn't know what that meant, because this has been a year or so this has been going on for. So I went to my doctor, my local doctor, same guy, walked in and he goes, "Hi, Caroline, take a seat." I said, "Right, that's it. I've had enough of this shit. I want to be normal." He just laughed. I said, "It's not funny." He goes, "Okay." He says, "What can we do for you?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me." And he suggested meditation. I know, probably because I was very pushy. So he suggested meditation, and that's how my journey began with meditation. It took a long time. It took a while, but I was determined and I did it. It calmed my mind, my anxiety, and over the years, I learned myself just to do some deep breathing techniques. That helped me immensely. I remember back in the day with anxiety at night, I would do star jumps in my living room just to burn off the adrenaline that the anxiety had created in my body system. I'll tell you what I did do. I smoked, I drank alcohol and coffee, and I was a meat eater. One day I got up, still had 3 or 4 cigarettes left, and I could not think of having a cigarette because of the lungs and the not breathing properly. I stopped smoking, drinking alcohol, coffee, and eating meat all at one moment. Never touched any of them for 10 years. 10 years. I don't smoke anymore, but I have a drink occasionally.
The Vedic texts suggest that forms of meditation existed as far as 5 to 7,000 years ago. I actually remember you mentioning over the years teachers like Yogananda and Maharishi Yogi. Those are the ones who really brought meditation from the East to the West. Were they your direct teachers, or were they just a part of what led you onto this path?
Were they my direct teachers? No. That was something after my teacher came into my world that I started to read about them. So with teachers, one thing I will say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That always happens. Did I know that I was going to be affiliated with anything from the East, from India? No, but it happened without me trying. As a channel, Yogananda has come through. I've had dialogue with him and I have bought some of his books. I'm a hard copy girl. And what he used to share and what he used to say matched my vibration. Here's the key to looking for a teacher. And look, guru means teacher, dispersing the darkness to bring in the light. That's what a teacher does. So I know people don't like the word guru because there's been a lot of things happened over the years, but the truth is they're just teachers. With Yogananda, his books, it resonated. So what I'm going to say is what you resonate to and who you are and what your journey is going to be. It'll be a resonance that comes off you that will then guide you towards something. All right. Now, Mahatma Gandhi was another one. I loved Gandhi's story. I didn't really understand it at first, but now I can look back and see who he was. He was such a powerful energy. And when I got into my meditation world and I moved, and all I was doing was meeting people of like mind. And one of the friends I met, she was with the Hare Krishnas at the time in Queensland. And she and the Hare Krishnas sponsored an old sage from India to come. And he was going to come to her home on her birthday. Now, he was blind from the age of 3. And when I met him, he was 82. What I didn't know was he lived on the Ganges in the same town with Mahatma Gandhi as the elder. He was a beautiful man. We had discourse. He would talk. He gave us one-on-ones. Because he was blind, he would hold our hands. He could feel the energy of every person just by holding their hands. And for me, that was a major experience. So these things came into my life, including moving to Queensland. Within 3 months of being here, my teacher from India, which I didn't know at that time who he was or that I even had a teacher, walked in my home upstairs. I was downstairs and I started to vibrate. My whole being was vibrating. And I knew I had to meet this man. So I went upstairs, made a cuppa, I said hello, and then I ran back downstairs. And it wasn't until 3 months later that my friend said, "Oh, remember that man? He wants to meet you." And I said, "Oh, I want to meet him." So that's how my deeper teachings from India came together. It was all a whirlwind at that time, but the depth of that, of all these people, and now knowing why certain things happened through my journey, was to bring me to that moment. That was the true beginning of deepening my awareness through meditation, healing, and understanding my journey.
I recall you sharing on one occasion that you went to an ashram in India and you were the first Western woman to go there. It had previously only been open to men. Can you take us back to that time and what was that experience like and what did you discover there?
Okay, wow. So my teacher from India, he was back in India, and my third husband, I'm going to say, my third husband, Richard, and myself, we went to India. It was a dream. I knew I had to get there and ground myself with all the teachings. This particular ashram is affiliated to my lineage, which is Jai Ma Kali, the goddess Kali. We traveled for days to reach this place. It was crazy. Now, it wasn't only men that were allowed there, women would go also, but who stayed there was all men. And anyone from the townships would travel and go there to do worship in the cave that was built into the side of the mountain. Now, when we arrived, my husband and I were the only Westerners who'd ever got there. That's how remote we were. It is a small lineage, but very powerful. It was a privilege. They honored us. They respected us. It was an experience that I will never forget, especially going into the cave. Now, when we got there, there's two big timber doors and there's like a mountain. My teacher opened up the doors and there were stairs going down into this black cavern. My husband walked down first and he stopped halfway down because it took his breath away and he went back out. He could not do it. So I went in there with my teacher and another student and I could feel what he was feeling. It was very intense because this cave had been present in that ashram for over 400 years where people were worshipping the gods and goddesses. Now, the next morning we had to get up and we had to go and meditate in this cave. I was looking forward to it. My husband said, no, I'm not going. I'll meditate up here. So we went into the cave and what we had to do was chores. So we had to sweep, those brooms, like a witchy broom. We had to sweep, clean, light candles. We had to switch it on basically. And then myself, the other student, and my teacher sat there using our mala beads and our mantras. Now, it was not hot, but within 5 minutes of starting, I felt like I was in a sweat lodge. The sweat was running, pouring off my body. It was so intense. There were so many moments I wanted to flight, turn around and run. But I was like, no, don't. And I kept doing it. And I'm so grateful I did. When I finished, I sat for about 10 minutes by myself. Then I walked outside. You have to imagine we were in the middle of nowhere, near the border of Pakistan, up very north in India, Rajasthan, very dry, tumbleweeds. There was nothing. And I remember walking out and looking outside, and I had no thoughts. I remember feeling that extreme feeling that there was nothing inside me. There was nothing talking or expressing about the rock or the tree or the water. I was literally just present. And at that moment, I burst into tears. It was the most joyful experience I've ever had.
A lot of people say they find meditation quite difficult. It's why guided meditations have become so popular. They're actually my favorite, all your guided meditations. What's actually happening in the body or the emotional field during meditation? And does that process change when someone's being guided versus when they're meditating on their own?
Well, let's go to guided meditations. We know that we want to meditate because we're overwhelmed. How can we calm the mind? By focusing on something else. So what a guided meditation does is takes you away from yourself. It gives you a distraction, actually. Are guided meditations true meditations? No. They're a starting point. definitely. But are they meditating? No. You are still in your conscious mind. You haven't dropped. You haven't let go. You haven't deepened your awareness. You are in a fantasy storyline. So you're still thinking, because you have, oh, a color, where's that red? Oh, there's a pathway. So you're still in thought process while you're being guided. Now, there are some people who, when they guide you, they can take you in deeper into another place, which is taking it into yourself. And then they can stop and let you rest. Then you're in a different place than the conscious mind. And that means that you'll be here, but then the mind goes, what are you doing? No, I'm meditating. But what? No, I'm meditating. If you can do that when you're in that quiet space, when mind comes in, don't attach to it. Just go, no, thank you, but I'm meditating, and it leaves. So that's guided meditation. Deeper meditation is where you enter yourself. You actually begin with guided meditations, then you begin with breathwork, then you relax, then you let go. So it's bringing head to heart. First place we go to is heart. Bring your thoughts here, then bring your thoughts down to your navel, then bring your thoughts down to your feet. The farthest point away from your mind is where a meditation should actually take you. And then you enter the realm of who you are, the realm of the knowing field, the nothing space, whatever you choose to call it. But it is the place where everything begins from and is created through.
So what's happening to your body in that meditative state once you get there?
Once you get to that meditative state, every atom and molecule in your whole body calms. It's not sparking off. It's not fearful. It's not doing all this. It calms itself down. You relax, and you'll notice your body is heavier in the chair. You'll notice your hands upon your lap feel like lead weights. And sometimes you will even have the thought, am I breathing? Because you don't have to consciously breathe. The body is a natural, beautiful machine that knows how to look after you. So in those natural states, we step aside and we become free-flowing, beautiful energy systems again.
What you're about to hear wasn't a part of the script. It's one of those moments where the work itself becomes the work. In the middle of my questions to Caroline, she actually stopped me because there was an unhealed moment that had been touched that required attention. This is where you know the work that you're doing is the real work. I've decided to leave it in rather than edit it out. It's very human, and it's healing. Healing unfolds in its own way. It is also a part of my healing journey that is happening in real time. And by sharing it, I hope it helps others see that healing is layered and complex, and it's continuous, and it's awkward, and it's messy, and it's heartbreaking, and it's beautiful all at once. It can be confronting to expose one's self while in the process of doing the work, especially when you're trying to protect others or think you're protecting, when in truth you're only protecting your own pain and in turn preventing your healing. So here's the awkward dialogue with the tears and the snotty noses. It's such a meta moment where the conversation becomes the healing. When I was going through my healing journey with breast cancer, I would on occasion just come and sit in your house. We didn't need to talk. You didn't need to physically be present. It would be the vibration of the house that would hold me, and I'd feel this instant wave of calmness and inevitably fall asleep on your couch because that's what I needed to recalibrate. I still remember the first time I walked into your healing room upstairs, as you moved house, my whole body started to vibrate. It was overwhelming. You know, I just had a mastectomy and I'd been through months of chemotherapy, so my body was quite weak and very exposed and open. It's been a while since I've been into that room, but throughout my entire journey, 18 months or so.
Can we stop this and do that again? Now, Because I'm going to you straight away.
Yeah.
Notice what you're doing.
It's a story.
No. What your body's doing, what you're doing, you're rolling your eyes.
Feeling uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because I'm uncomfortable about the story.
Yes. Notice that.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching you instead of listening. So you've got to really let that go. Mm-hmm.
I don't like taking up space and making it feel like me, but the story is important because
Yeah,
it makes it relatable.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So play it again.
Yeah.
And I want you to sit and look at me like you always have.
Oh.
No movements, nothing.
Oh.
Listen to it as an observer.
As an observer of the story.
Yeah,
okay.
Not that it's you.
When I was going through my healing journey with breast cancer, I would on occasion just come and sit in your house. You didn't need to talk, you didn't need to physically be present. It would be the vibration of the house that would hold.
All right, stop it. Okay, this is why we had to do that, because it's come up. Yeah, it's okay. Give yourself a moment, Joe. You don't have to continue. You breathe it, don't stop it. Remember, don't suppress. This is big. There's an ending to this world of yours, who you were. So there's 3 parts of you. You know, who you were before breast cancer, who you were through breast cancer, and who you are now. And it's hard because you hold the emotion of all parts. And so this is your journey and this is your story. And bringing that emotion out today is perfect for all of this, because that's a fear.
It's actually you supported me, not my family, not my people. That was, I don't want to call you random, but you were outside of my family system.
Yeah.
So when it still breaks my heart that my own family wasn't there, and that I had someone who's not blood. You know, our culture is so
blood oriented
and family and you know, even with my in-law, like, so that's why I'm upset, because still I won't say loneliness, but I don't know. It's accepting that teachers and help and love from the feminine can be outside of
the
what you're born into.
Yeah.
So that's still really upset there.
Yeah. No, that is difficult. And this is what we were talking about with anxiety in the base chakra. Who am I? Where do I belong? Do I feel safe, secure, and supported? So that's right, there it is. So it's base. It's always been base. Where do I come from? You know, you leaving your home like me. Yeah. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And, you know, I appeared and you appeared in my world, came to me as a client. And we always had those, you know, those big conversations that you knew there was something more to this than you just coming for counselling. And then it became, you know, that it was a friendship, and then it became business, and then you gave birth to Kai. And, you know, I used to sit there and hold Kai while we were talking. So I've always been a part of your world.
It still breaks my heart that I consider you more of a mother than my own mother.
Yeah. Look, I really feel that, Joe. It's sad. It saddens me to think that your own mother had not the same connection with you than what I have even. But, you know, I'm not going to say it because you're going through the emotion of it. It is something that has occurred from a soul's journey. When we talked about the expectations earlier, so what we're always doing is expecting someone to be different to what they are. And it is the point of acceptance. If we can accept who people are, and it's not right or wrong, and we're not condoning it, but what it means is I can accept you for who you are. It means I see you. It means that your unhealed moments are coming through and projected onto me, and I no longer need to carry them, and I no longer need to believe it's me, that I've healed beyond that. So now I can say thank you. I don't need you to change. But does that mean I want you to be in my reality, to be in my world? Do I have to contact you or communicate with you? No. Everything is a choice. But they only come in because healing is needed. That's all.
Yeah, and I'm embarrassed I've avoided this because I'm embarrassed for this to be, I don't want to cast shame or, which is why I've tip-tapped around it, because I'm protecting her, because I do love and revere everything that she's done, but it doesn't negate that I'm still...
You're still hurt.
Yeah.
You're very hurt. And yeah, we understand that people who do certain things, it's because of their trauma, unhealed moments. We are the end result of thousands who have gone before us, not just that one person, but the lineage, the ancestors. And I will say there is usually around this timeline, is what we're experiencing it at, is one person in a family system puts their hand up and says, I'll do it for you. I will heal the ancestral trait so my children don't have to suffer, so it doesn't get sent back. So your mother was the end result of her ancestors that was placed on her. Some souls didn't come in to do the journey, but they came in to actually continue it. And then there's some that come in to complete it. And if you look at yourself as a completion, then you will do it for the family. So that's why we don't blame parents. We don't blame grandparents. It's an unhealed trauma from we don't know how long ago that it keeps coming through generations. We used to say, that family's cursed. Now we understand it's an unhealed moment being brought back up for healing, nothing else.
Had that one in for a very long time. I've tried to not have it threaded through everything that we've done, which has probably been why we've stopped things, because I was trying to get around the core thread.
And even in our journey, how we've stopped and started, it's probably because that core wound was being touched.
Yeah. Repeatedly. Throughout the years.
Yeah, that's it. What part is this person in my life? Oh, you represent, because sometimes I know I can probably represent the mother who doesn't show care, the mother who doesn't honor as much, because that's who I was as a mother. So I probably am particles of that energy that touches you. That's it.
Okay. Throughout my entire journey, 18 months or so, whenever I found myself in a really difficult place, I'd send you a voice note, and every time you'd send one back, and it was instantaneously calming. The resonance is felt immediately. There's something about your voice. It's medicine in itself. Even just listening to this podcast or a chat or, old recordings, it brings peace. And I've said it before, I'd love to have the vibrational frequency and harmonic resonance of your voice measured one day, partly to prove a point, but mostly because there's clearly something happening there. What is that? Why does your voice have that effect? And if we were to bring Jonah into this conversation, what would he say about that? Is it yours? Or is it something that moves through you as a channel? How is it that the transmission that is received by someone is received at the right time, just as they need it?
Let's go back to why you felt what you felt in my meditation room. Over time, I have realized that everything is a frequency of energy, whether it's an ornament, a statue, a chair, a rug on the floor, doesn't matter what it is, everything is alive. It is a frequency. It is not just solid. So over the years, when I start to set up altars, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at my ornaments, and I'm looking at my gods and goddesses in that room, and I'm looking at everything, and I talk to it. Every time I pick up an object in my home, I would go, okay, I'm just going to put you in a box for now. I'll see you soon. This is how I used to operate. And so I was imbuing everything with my love, imbuing everything with my attention. I was giving form to something that was formless. I was giving life to something that was lifeless. And then when I would unpack, like, oh, where would you like to go in this room? And then I'd get a thought, oh, over there, or a little vision where I can see it. So it's like they started to talk back to me. I know this sounds crazy, but that's how it was. So my meditation room, where I do my inner work, becomes a resonance. It becomes a healing temple. That's truly what it is. It's like when I walked into that cave in India, I felt it. When you walked into my room, you felt it. So what this is the same energy. It's giving joy to something that is joyless. So when you walk in, you're walking into frequency. As I said, my home, yes, everyone feels the energy in my home. They go, oh, because that's who I am now. My thoughts and my mind are not static. They're not crazy. I have some moments, but I'm calmer. So it starts to move from me into my reality, into my world. It's peace, it's quiet, it's all of those things. It's a healing temple. Now, when we come to my voice, the calmer I am, the deeper and more monotone my voice becomes. We know that voice has a tone, and if I'm not peaceful, the octave rises. But when I'm delivering a meditation, I am in my inner temple. That's the only way I could explain it. When I close my eyes and I talk to my guidance or Jonah, they start to show me the imagery or what is needed in this moment for this meditation. I can speak it from such a connected, calm place. And so my tone becomes healing. I've always said it's not the words that I speak that heal you, but the vibration behind the words that heals you. That is my connection to my source. That is the filtered energy coming through me and coming out through my tone of voice. So that's what I love, and I understand that. You know, many people have said it's not what you've said, but the tone, it's like I feel like I could just close my eyes and go to sleep. So if I was to be saying that right now to all of you, if you just listen, not to my words, but if you just listen to my voice, and I say to you, just relax. Just let your body drop. Let your body go. Feel heavier and heavier on that chair. Allow yourself, you'll notice that what it's doing is you focus on the sound, which takes you away from your thought. That's the first step, the first stage of any inner work.
So, as a bit of a summation, we've talked about anxiety, the emotional field, and your journey with meditation. Why do you consider meditation as the starting point or the starting tool for anxiety relief? What makes it so effective compared to all the other modalities people often turn to, things like therapy or journaling or mindfulness apps?
I say meditation because it's your thoughts. Does journaling clear thoughts? Sometimes, but they'll come back. And I will say for journaling, if you have years of journals sitting in boxes, please burn them, because it's old stories, it's old energy. And if you want to keep reading them and you haven't healed it, you're going to rehash the feeling again. Now, the reason I say meditation is because, firstly, that's what helped me. I can talk about my own experience here. Meditation was the only thing that made me come away from my thoughts. It made me calm them. Before I say meditation, the first thing I will say is stop. If you can't take 5 minutes in your day, there is something wrong. It means that you are on such a tangent. You've got to fix your eyes on one thing. That's stopping. Your mind could still be racing, and eventually, oh, there's no thought. Okay, I stopped. When you've practiced that and you can do that to clear mind, then you will know that being fixed on one thing, which is mindfulness really, being fixed on one thing When I'm in a meditation, you will notice, here's a thought, here's not a thought. Oh, I was peaceful. Oh, I wasn't. So meditation starts to show you what's really going on inside you. It's going to show you how many thoughts pop through your mind in 1 minute, which is extreme. You're going to get overwhelmed and you stop and you get up and you go, oh, that's not for me. No, it's perfect. It's actually shown you what was really going on. That's what meditation does. If you are not aware of what's happening inside you, how are you meant to change inside you, heal inside you? So people say, I can't meditate. Everyone can. It is their mind that says they can't. So I always say meditation first. Look, breath work, it could be as simple as just taking 3 deep breaths up through the nose and out through the mouth. Now I'm going to show you when you actually do a proper breath. And I'm not talking about chest breathing. I'm talking about base, like below my navel is where I start the breath from. So I'm going to close my eyes because I find I can do it deeper when my eyes are closed. All right, watch this. Now that's peace. There is nothing. My body isn't angst. It's not tight. When you breathe up deeply, you're pulling with the breath all the emotional residue that's just sitting in the breathing system, and you breathe it out. I wasn't being controlled. The breath didn't do me. I was aware, consciously aware of taking in that breath without holding it, just like the pendulum. Let it just do what it needs to do, and then it comes out. The breath, if the breath was controlling me, this is what it would look like. You want to get it out as quick as you can. That's the breath going, let go, let go. No. But when you start to control your breathing, when you start to do it like a pendulum, it goes here and then it's like, it doesn't stop, just reaches the apex and then it flows. Same amount to the next point, same amount to the next point. So if you watch that, that calms you. That's breathing, true breathing. So yes, meditation and breathing. So I do those 3 deep breaths before I go deeper into a meditation because that calms me. Close your eyes, get yourself settled, make sure there's no distractions, and just do those 3 deep breaths, or as many as you want to, as many as you can. And just sit in that. Notice your mind might try to come in again. It's okay. If it does, you go, thank you. Always thank your thoughts, or they'll badger you, they'll beat you up. Thank you, but I'm meditating. It goes, okay, bye. Another one comes. Thank you, but I'm meditating. Okay, bye. Now, your whole beginning of meditation could be just that. It could be just you saying thank you to thoughts, you experiencing them, watching them. And then, and only then, will you become an observer later on.
We really hope you enjoyed our very first episode. The intention was to bring it back to the heart of it, that anxiety isn't something to fear or fix. It's simply a signal from the body asking for your presence, for safety and for understanding. We explored the emotional field, how anxiety doesn't just live in the mind, but moves through the breath, the body, and into our everyday reactions. And through awareness, we can begin to regulate, to soften, and to meet life's natural tensions with compassion instead of resistance. Now, you would have gathered from this episode, Caroline's teachings are beautifully simple. They're not complicated practices. They're gentle reminders you can weave into your everyday life. It starts with noticing, with the breath, with simple moments of calm that builds your capacity over time. Caroline has been a very close mentor of mine while I've been going through breast cancer diagnosis, treatment, and beyond. And I really attribute a lot of the success of my journey holistically to the work that I've done with Caroline. We've decided to partner together to create tools and resources to make them accessible to everyone, especially those who have gone through the path that I've endured over the past 2 years. We begin with Heal Anxiety, the 5-day reset. It's a combination of 5 guided meditations and 5 breathwork techniques, simple practical tools to help you center, especially when life feels like it's all a little bit too much. When I was going through the more active part of treatment, I only used day 1 of the series, just the very first meditation on repeat. It helped to anchor me. It brought me back to the present moment when everything felt really uncertain and overwhelming at the time. Even now, when we're in the car and the children have had a really big day and are bickering, I'll put on any one of the meditations, doesn't matter what it is. Caroline's voice, her tone, her frequency just really helps to bring the entire car back to a state of calm. She definitely wouldn't recommend that you listen to the guided meditations while driving, but honestly, sometimes you have to do what you have to do to find your calm. You can download the Heal Anxiety bundle instantaneously. It's yours for life. Save it to your phone. The links are included below. Now, if this conversation spoke to you, we'd love for you to subscribe to our brand new channel. It'll help us grow this space and continue to stay motivated to create further conversations that heal just like this one. You can also find us on Substack. We'll be sharing Caroline's channeled writings directly from Jonah, over 30 years worth of timeless, powerful transmissions that deepen this work and help you stay connected to these teachings. I'm Jo, and this is The Emotional Field, our ongoing conversations that heal. From both Caroline and I, thank you for listening and thank you for doing this work with us.